Hello, hello, hello. Great day, everyone. Good to see you all out there. Every day we deal with the stresses and the challenges of life. We have some ups, we make some mistakes. And in addition to everything that we deal with, often in the background is that little voice. It's that inner critic that has an endless supply of not so nice things to say. So, in addition to dealing with all the craziness in the world, we have the added pressure of dealing with ourselves. The result? Sometimes imposter syndrome, anxiety, unhappiness, physical symptoms, and so much more that can impact your life. But what would happen if you became your own best friend? Hmm. That's what we're going to explore a bit today on the show as we get ready to lead above the grind. Let's get started. All right. Hello, everyone. Great day out there. Super excited to be here with you back for another episode of the Coffee with Rhonda show. And I am just these little quotes and these little funny sayings at the end just crack me up. So okay, so let's make sure we didn't miss today's at the end of the intro. My body is just a filter. Coffee goes in and sass comes out. I kind of feel a little sassy today. So we'll see what happens while we've got our wonderful guest on the show today. So, welcome to another episode of the Coffee with Rhonda show. This is season 8, and this is episode 93. We are your cup full of inspiration, revelation, and wit for today's savvy leader. And we're always excited for you to be here with us. So before we get started, a couple of things that I would love for you to do. So first of all, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please visit coffeewithrondashow.com, and hit the little subscribe button. And then right now, I don't care if you're watching live or on the replay, take a moment to like this video and share it, because I promise you there will be something here that someone else would need or want to hear. With all that being said, my name is Rhonda Y. Williams, and I'm your host for the show. I'm what I like to call an RSO, or a recovering stressed out leader. I believe today it is absolutely essential for us to modernize our approach to leadership so that it includes well being and ongoing personal growth and professional development. I'm the founder of Above the Grind, leadership mentoring and coaching, where we help leaders develop the skills to do just that. You can learn more about us at atgleadership.com. Now, today I am coming to you live from Bogota, Colombia, where I was able to run right next door to the hotel and get a cup of McCafe that I treated myself to a cappuccino today. So that's what I have in my cup. Bogota. I should have got a special little Bogota cup, right? I know I didn't get that far. It's been a crazy week. So that's me, and that's what I have in my cup. So let's get to our super caffeinated co-host and say good morning and good evening to them. Miss Roz Jones, hello to you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Roz Jones, the CEO and owner of Jacksonville's Best Caregivers, where we help expand the life of your loved one. Why do I do it? I do it to help the caregiver to reduce that SOS on their journey, which is being stressed, overwhelmed, and providing safety and security. When you can't do it all, you give us a call. And I do have my cup today. Ta-da. Hold, please. Just a minute.
Hmm.
All right, awesome.
And I have a little bit of it's called throat coat because my throat's been bothering me. So I'm using throat coat with honey and lemon.
Oh, good. All right,
Ooh.
Roz, throat coat. That's an interesting one. I haven't heard of that one, so I'll definitely be checking that one out. after the show. So, good evening to you, Mireille.
Hello, hello, hello. And I'm again jealous because you are again in a nice country. But hello, everyone. This is Mireille, tuning in from Perth in Australia. You know me as the Graceness Engineer. And as a Graceness Engineer, I'm focused on helping women in male-dominated environment to be more visible and to also, be able to lead at the highest level. So today I have in my cup coffee because like last week I was struggling staying awake, and so I said, okay, I'm just gonna have some coffee so that I'll stay awake the whole show and hopefully go to bed after that. So that's what I have for you today.
All right, all right. Well, you're not close to enough for us to poke you if you start to nod off. So I'm glad you've got coffee in your cup. All right, awesome. So, and I am super excited to welcome our special guest to the show today. So, today we have on our show Dr. Dolores Fazzino. Dr. Fazzino is a nurse practitioner and a medical intuitive, an energy whisperer, and an international multi-time bestseller. So we are super excited to have you here with us. Would you please do a little bit of introduction? Tell us just a little bit about the work you do in the world, and then don't forget to tell us what you have in your cup.
Thanks, Rhonda, Roz, and Mireille, for having me here. Um, Thanks for the introduction as well. I've been in healthcare for well over 45 years. I kind of do a lot of different interesting things. Believe it or not, I'm an assistant surgeon, so I assist in surgical procedures. And I've been doing that probably as an entrepreneur the last 30 years of my career. I've assisted on over 20,000 different procedures, and I've actually witnessed how people create the physical ailment of what's happening with them. What I mean by that is that everything is energy, and our physical is the tip of the iceberg of what's underlying our emotions, whether or not you deal with them or not, you stuff them, your self talk, what do you say to yourself in your head, and also your beliefs, and also your connectedness to your inner knowingness and wisdom, your intuition. If there's a disconnect from that, it all goes down, the rabbit hole. So I found throughout my career that there is more than what's going on. In fact, early in my career, it's hard to believe that I was actually on a pathway to become a concert clarinetist. And in the 11th hour, I changed to going into healthcare. And there's a story with that, and I'll briefly tap into that. But sometimes we are on our paths and you don't know, you can't discern what's in front of you. You can't separate the forest from the trees, but it's just like you're just being led down this pathway, and you wonder sometimes what the until you get down the road on the other side of it, and then you could look back from where you are at this vantage point and see how every single thing in your life led you to where you are now and what the work you're doing. And all of you are doing amazing things in our world at this time. We're all here to do amazing work to create the new way of being. And
So, Dolores, tell us what you have in your cup, and then we're going to dive in a little bit more.
homebrew, homebrew coffee, caffeinated.
That's awesome.
It's actually, it's very early for me in California because I'm not a morning person. I usually am still in bed until about 10 o'clock because that's just my cycle and stuff like that. But yes, so it's highly charged today.
All right, Mireille can relate. Okay, so let's say
Yeah.
good morning to a couple of people. Good morning, Mom. Mom is tuning in, and she's got frozen strawberry lemonade slush. Excited for another
Yum.
great show. So, yum, that sounds delicious. Regina's tuning in. Hey, says here from San Antonio. Delighted to be here. She's got water in her cup. And then Phyllis is tuning in. And Phyllis, where are you tuning in from? Your name is not familiar to me. So let us know where you're tuning in from, because we have a very wide audience, and I love to tap into that a bit. So he just said, "Wow." I wasn't sure if that was in relation to the fact that I was in Bogota or or what was going on. I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
from India, I think.
Oh, he's from India. Okay.
Yeah, I
Oh,
had it
okay.
on my show on before.
Oh, wonderful,
Okay.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show and tuning in. I'm excited to get started today and talk a little bit about this because I think it's something that all of us can use a bit more conversation around. And then what we do and what we take from that conversation is really all about us. So, Dolores, I'm going to start with your opening quote. And then what I'd like you to do is tell us a little bit about that quote and where it came from. Like why is that one that's important to you? So let me put it on screen here for just a second and then I'll read it out so that those on listening in audio form later can know what it says and then I'll turn it over to you for you to tell us a little bit more about it. So here is our opening quote. Okay, so the quote says the longest relationship you will have in your life is the one you have with yourself. Dolores, tell us a little bit more about what is this about?
So I finally came to the epiphany one day. We're constantly looking outside of ourselves for our validation, for our worthiness sometimes, for you know being led. We disempower ourselves by giving our power away in little bits and pieces and different ways to something outside of ourselves, be it an institution, a person, a place. I think this is what we've been programmed to think from a very young age. I know I was. It's just like you worry about what other people think. What will the
Mm-hmm.
neighbors say? Oh, you know what? Don't feel it's not okay. Ignore it. It'll go away. Does that sound familiar? I'm sure it
Mhm.
does for some people. Yeah. And what I've found is that when we worry about all that stuff, we're having a dialogue with ourselves and it's constantly beating ourselves up. It's just like we're judging and criticizing. And, you talk about your inner critic. It's just like, would you treat your best friend like that? I know I wouldn't. But yet, why am I looking on the outside of myself for my best friend when, in essence, that's me? And you know what? And I realized you need to have a relationship with yourself. We always say that we have to take care of ourselves first. Self-care, self-mastery, self-respect, self-value, self-talk, and what you're saying to yourself in the closets of your mind, but it's still running the show. And for me, it was a huge epiphany that, okay, if everything starts with self, let's have a relationship with ourselves, because that's like the most important relationship you could ever have, because who you are within is this essence that radiates out into society. And anybody here a fan of like the law of attraction, or it's what
Mhm.
you think about, you create, basically.
Yeah.
And I want to take it a step further. What you think about, feel, and experience, you also create.
Mhm.
Okay. So why not be mindfully aware of what you're saying and doing? I think many of us have a tendency to be on automatic or unconscious. It's just something happens and it's like on an unconscious level, we react and we go through our little MO. What I'm going to invite people to do is that be observant, be curious like a child, because remember what a child was like. They're very curious. They question everything, and they still have that innocence.
Mhm.
Whereas as we are born and we start living our life and situations and experiences, that innocence dissipates. And
So,
it's
Dolores, one of the things I'm thinking about as you're speaking is as a child. So, when you say use approach it like a child with this innocence, I was just thinking about how children sort of talk to and talk through things with themselves. I've never heard a child say, "I'm such an idiot" at a very young age, right? That doesn't come
Mhm.
until later, until you start to be conditioned with, you should be better, you should know better, you should have done this, you're not doing it well. So, hold on, we've got quite a bit of, and then I want to tap in and get Roz and Mireille to respond, and I'm going to come back to you, Dolores. But we've got
Sure.
Pat tuning in from Johannesburg. Hey, Pat, thanks so much for tuning in. Good to see you. We've got Regina Hutchins. Hey, Regina, thanks so much for joining. She said you are so right. And she also said, I'm older and trying to start it now. Regina, we are all on this journey together. And
Mm-hmm.
then Susan, hey Susan, my friend, how it's really good to see you. She says, be curious. I love that. And then she also said, in today's business world, you have to be careful with how much you question, and it is the manner in which you are curious. So you're talking about
Hmm.
taking that curiosity into a corporate space in a way that feels psychologically safe, is what I'm picking up from you, Susan. So, Dolores, is that what you are picking up from that as well?
Yes, and I'm going to propose this question. Why do you feel like you need to hide?
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Because
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that, you're giving your power away to what it's going to be like to fit in there. And maybe that's not what you need to do. There's a paradigm shift going on right now, people. It's not just in healthcare, my industry, which I'm witnessing and I'm living it right now. It's everywhere. And it's basically the same principles of just learning how to love yourself enough to take your power back and claim your sovereignty, which is every human being's right.
So Dolores, so Roz, jump
Mm-hmm.
in here and respond because I, we could have a whole show just in this little mini topic right here. Like literally, I could
Isn't that
stop
the
right
truth?
here and we could have a whole show on this because I've been talking a lot about psychological safety and how we show up in spaces and the fact that we don't bring our whole selves because there's so much fear there, right? I'm gonna lose my job. They're gonna think I'm not a team player. I'm not going to get the raise I want. They're going to bypass me. All of this is what I think Susan is referring to, and Susan, the challenge I
Mm-hmm.
think that Dolores put on the table for us is it time to push past that and move beyond it? So, Roz, what say you?
This is just as powerful as last week. It's tying in with everything that young man talked about last week, so far as the energy, having
Yeah.
control, uh, you know, setting your own atmosphere, taking control of you and not letting someone else have control. And since last week, I've been trying to not be so passive. I'm thinking more about what I say, but I know I'm a A-type personality, and there's some things that I can see, and so a lot of times correction comes from me a lot if I see
Mm,
something that's
Mm-hmm.
wrong. And so, people often, label me as the bad guy or the other B word, but that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. But as long as it's creating the order and removing the chaos, I have come to my self-awareness is that that's what I'm here for.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and so I used to let people take that away from me. Oh, here come Roz. She got something negative to say. No, I just don't want you to have to go back around this circle again because of this because you don't want to, because we won't implement a system or a change for us to get somewhere sooner or to accomplish a task. But listening to Dr. Dolores about not letting someone take control of you, saw my hands went up in the air. Honey
yeah.
child, we're
Roz, may
guilty
I
of that. Go
Roz,
ahead.
Mm-hmm.
may I interject something too?
Please,
It's
please.
just like, what I've found, if you looked at me now, you would have never known like 15, 20 years ago, I had a huge issue with confrontation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would avoid it at all cost. And it's just like, I embrace it now. And it's like, bring it on. And the thing is like, I've had some very interesting conversations with other healthcare providers, particularly surgeons and physicians who do not see things the way that I see things, as far as a
Mhm.
bigger, expanded way. There's these blinders. I have found that when I speak from my heart, okay, no matter how difficult it is, the right words always come out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Wow.
going to invite you to explore that a little bit because I think it'll be a huge game changer.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's
I love
interesting
Wow.
that.
about
I
that
love
is
that.
that's exactly
Hmm.
what I teach, right?
Mhm.
And it's the work that I'm doing. I'm actually here in Bogota working with a group of physicians. And we're talking about just that. How do you communicate effectively using your heart so that you are, so it's about getting the outcome that
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
towards a shared goal, right? When we're talking with patients, families, and colleagues, yes, you might have bad news to deliver. Yes, you might have been really overwhelmed, super busy, didn't get sleep because your pager kept going off or whatever, but you are in front of this person. So, how do you communicate with your heart? So that they know that you are there, that you feel like they feel cared for. So, oh my gosh, this
So,
conversation. So, hold on, Mireille, I'm going to come right to you. But Susan clarified, and she said it's not about hiding.
That's
It's about
correct.
how you present your curiosity, know your audience, be
mm-hmm.
authentic for sure,
Yep.
but be a good listener. Love the discussion. Susan, I think that's so true because I
Very
do
true.
think the how matters. She says she has to slow down to go fast and stop the
True.
automatic speed. She tells
Yep.
herself that regularly. And then one more, and then Mireille, I want you to jump in. The culture of fear versus the culture of constructive dialogue. In the culture of fear, there's an artificial harmony, and one cannot be yourself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ooh.
right, I don't know.
Ooh.
What are you
Yeah.
taking away from this? And then I'm going to come back with another question for Dr. D.
Oh, oh my God, it's just, it's just so deep and powerful. And I don't know what to add, but, just like Rose, it's just tying with what we were talking about last week, this trauma that we have and, created by how we've been conditioned
Mhm.
and not really knowing it. So it's really important that we, go back to ourselves, understand exactly where we want to be and our purpose to be able to be ourselves and speak from our heart, just like you mentioned. And it is difficult. It is difficult because we have been conditioned to compete, conditioned to
Mhm.
always in a way hide the our shortcomings, to a point where sometimes we're just gonna suffocate ourselves because we're trying to hide it. We're not really coming out and reaching out from our heart and being ourselves. And it is really painful. It is
Mhm.
really painful. So it's important to go back to ourselves, understand who we are, and really be confident with that, and understand that not everyone will be aligned with us, but that's okay. At least we express ourselves. At least we are good, we feel good, and we are ourselves. So I think that's really what I wanted to add.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Well
Mireille.
said. Yeah.
I love this discussion. I think you've got us going here a little bit, Dolores.
Mhm.
Favor joined us, and thank you for joining, Favor. It's always great to see you. So I want to ask you about, as we were sort of prepping for the show, we talked about the three most important things to being your own best friend, because we know that we should be, we know that we need to be, but I don't know if we know what that actually really means, right? I think it's
Mhm.
a broad term. And but what does it mean to be your own best friend? And then what are those three key areas?
Oh gosh. Now you're going to really rack my brain. It's like first thing in the morning. You know, and I'm just going to speak from the heart here because the right things will come out for the audience and stuff like that. I think the most important thing is that you need to trust yourself because so
Mhm.
many people don't trust themselves. They maybe something's happened in their life where that trust has been broken, shattered, or ignored. But the thing is, it's like it's I think one of the most things that are really important is like self-trust, and then being able to love yourself no matter what, give yourself some grace and credit
Mhm.
and compassion. My gosh, a lot of us are good at being compassionate to other people, but God forbid we're not passionate to ourselves at all.
Right.
Okay? And then lastly is that being able to be the calm within the storms of your life. What I'm going to say here is this is like we have a lot of noise and a lot of chaos and drama happening in our periphery. It's all distraction. It's all distraction from you coming to yourself and establishing a relationship with yourself. Because if you are grounded and know yourself, trust yourself, love yourself, no matter what is going on outside, you're living a whole completely different world inside, and it's no longer a match for what's on the outside.
Okay, well, I have a question about that.
Yes.
So how do you trust yourself if you keep jacking stuff up? So
Okay.
if you keep getting yourself in difficult situations, how do you trust yourself, or should you even? I don't know.
Okay, so I think sometimes there's a huge disconnect within people. People are in their heads all the time, and when you're in your heads, you're not in the present moment. Okay, you're trying to figure something out. You're living in the past, reflecting on the past, contemplating the future. You're trying to make something happen. I call it being in the doing mobile stage. We witnessed this quite a bit prior to the pandemic. That's the way the trajectory was for everybody. In order to be successful, you had to be in motion all the time. Do. It's the do machine. And you know what do means sometimes, right?
What's that?
The real Roz is nodding.
Right? The stuff that's not pretty.
It's like it turns into do basically. Okay? Because you're constantly doing, you're in motion all the time, and your body can't handle that long-term trajectory. And the pandemic was really a blessing in disguise, because it put everybody on alert that you can't be doing all the time anymore. So how do you change that? The universe gave you a pandemic, so everything had to come to a screeching halt for at least 2 weeks, right? It was interesting witnessing this, because people had a hard time staying still, not doing anything. Mm-hmm. They had to be, they're looking, and this was the opportune time for people to have a relationship with themselves. Okay, think about it. Yeah, well, for some people, that's a very scary thing. But going back to the longest relationship you're ever going to have in your life is the one you have with yourself. So you are it no matter what. And you know what? You are not by yourselves. This is only what we could see. There's a whole nother dimension of what is unseen. And with me as an intuitive, I have access to that world because of my gifts. But it's like, we are never alone, people. We aren't. There's more help out there in an invisible realm than anybody could ever imagine. But circling back to the trust thing, how do you gain trust? You learn to be. When you're in your body, you're in your heart space. You are in the present moment, right? Mm-hmm. You're not worrying about tomorrow or contemplating. Look at some of our animal companions. They're the definition of in the moment, right?
Yeah.
They're not worrying about yesterday. They're not worrying about tomorrow. They're right here, right now. And they trust that intuition. It's about learning to trust your instincts. Sometimes, really good. Yeah, sometimes there's no logic with it. You could be getting all the external information and input from everybody, but if your gut is telling you don't do it, I highly recommend you honoring that and don't do it. If you're getting a hell no, don't do it. That's even inclusive in your health care. And you're hearing this from somebody who's in Western medicine, okay? If something feels off to you and everybody's presenting you need to take this med or whatever, I invite you to check in with self and see if that's aligned with you and how you are feeling about it. We have those gut feelings like something's off. Trust that. It's never wrong.
Thank you. That is really, really good. So let's take a break for a moment. Let's do our greatness minute, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about this, because I want to talk a little bit about how our energy, because you do a lot of work in the energy space, and how our energy contributes to our willingness or ability to be that best friend to ourselves. So let's first go to our greatness minute, and we'll be back in just a second.
Everyone, this is Mireille, the Greatness Engineer, with you today. Today we're going to talk about fasting. As you can see, we had fasting, during Easter, and we also had fasting during Ramadan. And this, this process of fasting is very important. And for greatness, it's the same. We need to fast from all the negative people, all the people that see a problem where there's not a problem, all the people that are blocking, the positive energy that, that can help you to go to the next level of your greatness. So today I encourage you to clean around you, to fast from all those people who are bringing negativity into your life, who are bringing drama into your life. Because if you don't do that, there is, less chance for you to step into your greatness and to go to the next level of your greatness. So that's all I have for you today. Make sure you fast from all those negative people who are blocking your energy and blocking your greatness.
Oh my goodness. I love that.
I was going to say that's perfect.
It's so perfect. Drama, drama, drama. So all of you people out there that are creating drama, it's time to be on the fast. I love that take on it, Mireille. Thank you for your greatness minute this week. So Dr. D, let's talk a little bit about this. Let me see first what I missed here in our comments. So a little while back, Pat said, "Trust yourself. Self-trust is powerful." I agree, Pat, and it's something that probably, if you're not comfortable with it, is something that can be practiced. And then she says, "Love the greatness minute." Yes, Mireille. So I want to talk a little bit about energy and how energy contributes to our ability to be our best friend. And I know that you are sort of an expert in that realm of energy. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. For the longest time, I always knew that everything was energy. Okay. Even though we can't physically see something, doesn't mean that it's not an energetic thing. And I'm just going to define. We see ourselves as human beings. We're a dense form of energy, whereas like a thought is more of a wavelength. That's energy. Our beliefs are wavelengths. That's an energy. And our inner knowingness, and if you pray, that's an energy, or you meditate, that's an energy as well. So everything is energy, and it's all influencing things. Now take that a step further. We're all individuals with energy. There's also another layer called collective consciousness, which is an energy as well. And that's where it's a cumulative effect of everybody's positive and negative thoughts that are in this big vessel that kind of interferes sometimes with things. Now, if you are a person who's an empath, intuitive, or highly sensitive person, meaning that you feel things at a very deep level and you're dialed in a little differently, sometimes this comes into your energy field. And since our boundaries are maybe a little gray and they're not defined, we feel like whatever's coming into our space is ours, when in essence, it's not. And I know for me, I am one of those people. And I used to go through 50 shades of emotion going through a room. I kid you not. Because here I am, I'm feeling good. I walk through a room and then all of a sudden I want to cry. I'm angry, or I'm really happy, or, sometimes the energy just comes into your space and lingers and you think that it's yours, but in essence, it's not. So it's almost like it's being projected onto you, but on some level, you unconsciously are allowing it to happen. So I say unconsciously because we always have a choice of what we're going to allow in our space. And sometimes if things are happening to us, I invite people to say this little thing: if this is not my stuff, you need to leave my energy field now, in the name of the laws of the universe. Because as a sovereign being, you are here by free will. Nothing could come into your space unless you allow it. And I'm going to repeat that again. Nothing can come into your space unless you allow it. A lot of times we allow things on an unconscious level. We aren't aware of it. Yet when you are in your body and learning, establishing a relationship with yourself, is learning to trust, you will start to be able to discern these situations.
Wow.
Okay. So,
wow. And so 1 second, Dolores, as I'm thinking about this, how does that So with the energy, so often we are in a reactive mode from
Ah,
everything around
yeah.
us, right? And so when you say that nothing can really come to you unless you allow it, does that mean that we are bringing all of that into, or allowing it to come into our energy and into our space in our world to impact us on a much deeper level than we have to?
That's an interesting question, Rhonda. I feel that there's a few things that may be happening. I think sometimes we are, you know, in react mode because a lot of times that's an unconscious react. That's a unconscious response to
Hmm.
something. And I think a lot of times once you're aware that it's an unconscious thing, it kind of dissipates and you gain more of your power back. Number one. Okay. Number two, I think that, we've been programmed to not feel. So we just react.
Mm.
Okay. It's about produce, 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 don't feel, and ignore it, it'll go away. That's the worst thing you could say to somebody like myself, an empath, intuitive, and highly sensitive person, because guess what? When I ignore it, it gets bigger.
Mhm.
So the thing is that, for a lot of people, it's like when you are let me back up for a little bit. A lot of times when we're unconscious and things are happening unconsciously, it's like we get to see when you pull yourself back in a situation, say you get triggered, and it's like
Mhm.
automatic responses to, I want to just react and punch the guy out. So if you just widen yourself back, come into your body and pull your energy back, you could see the bigger picture sometimes. So and I always go with the curiosity, I'm getting triggered. And why is that? Just
Hmm.
allow it to unfold instead of just reacting, because we always have a choice. Okay. Situations happen and it's in how we respond. You could either react or respond. So
Mm.
it's more contemplative, and it's going to sometimes, if you're used to being reactive, I invite you, just take a deep breath, pull your energy back, and just observe what's going on before you respond.
Wow, that's important for us, I think,
Yeah.
because it's that automatic. Roz, I don't know. I have learned over the years to manage my reactions and to really shift, and primarily by stopping, right? Taking a pause,
Mhm.
not feeling like just because this thing happened right now, I have to respond right now, because I don't.
Exactly.
Right, I can give
Exactly, yeah.
myself time and space. So, Roz, when you're thinking about reacting, and is it something that you are still evolving through, the response versus the reacting part? And how's that going for you?
It ain't going well.
Honest answer, I mean, good for you.
It ain't going well. I'm gonna be honest with you because
Yeah.
sometimes I hear stuff and I automatically just go into okay, A B C D E F G all the way down to X Y Z,
Mm, mm,
and so I have to learn that everybody's level of thinking is not the same as mine.
yeah.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
And the way they process information is different than the way that I process information. So, as I said earlier, sometimes the way I come across is a little bit like sandpaper. It's a little rough, but they'll get over it. But yes, I'm still growing and evolving and practicing. And through
Mhm.
the Coffee with Rhonda show, I have been able to lead above the grind and working on that with due diligence. But I'm not gonna lie, it's hard because I can, like I said, I can come off real quick, but I'm trying to learn how to sit back and listen. And now Dr. Dolores said, it's from the heart. So I'm going to say, this is Roz Jones speaking from the heart. That's
Yeah.
that's going to be my new
No,
thing.
Roz,
Awesome. Thank you,
Roz,
Roz.
that's awesome. And it's just like, I think the most important thing is being self-aware. And
Hmm.
that's huge. Because from that point, that's like taking the unconscious pattern and shedding light on it. So now you could do something about it. Right?
Yeah. No, really
Huge.
important. Mom
Yeah.
said that my spirituality gives me my inner voice, which is what I
Mm.
consult with.
Yep.
Yes,
Exactly.
another form of energy, right? That
Yep.
we have access to. And I don't know that we always think about the energy that's around us, Mireille, and the fact that we have these options and choices, and that we can manage our energy and
Mm-hmm.
respond in a way that feels authentic and good to us.
But no one's
Mm-hmm.
ever
Mm-hmm.
taught us how. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go
No,
ahead. Go ahead. I'll follow
no,
up later. Yeah.
no. I was just saying, no one ever taught us how to respond and react.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As we were brought up, if something went on, I'm basing my experiences and responses off of
Mhm.
what my mom did, what my dad
Yep.
did,
Mm-hmm.
what they do at work. So I'm assuming that this it's okay to do that. And I'm done
Mm-hmm.
speaking. Go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
No.
I mean, I just wanted to bring something important because as someone who is actually communicating in different languages, it's really funny because being taking this pause and having the ability to look at the big picture when I'm actually in a English speaking environment is easy for me because because you it's not your first language, you tend to have to pause to understand what's going on, and it helps you with your conversation. But when we move to French, it's different. I tend to just go and not have to pause and really just being responsive instead of pausing, trying to understand, and really bringing my own energy into the situation or into the conversation. It's just so funny. And it's in a way for me it's always happening. I pause when there is a very difficult situation. It's not because I'm knowledgeable into it. It's just because it's not actually my first language, so I need to process. So I
Mhm.
need this time to pause, process, and it gives me time to analyze and then respond.
You know what that means, Mireille? You have to
Mhm.
always speak in English.
Exactly.
But you know what though? When she speaks to her children, I bet you she's speaking French.
Yeah. And that's why I'm more reactive. So I need to, to pause as well in French.
Oh my goodness. So Pat said, I make a conscious decision. And I think you're saying you make that conscious decision to manage that amygdala hijack, because that amygdala
Mhm.
hijack is when your emotional control center is just going crazy. It's got the wheel and it's not letting go. And it's like, I got this, but it's probably going to drive you into a ditch, right? So,
Mhm.
in order to manage that amygdala hijack, that's when we are pressing the pause button. So that's really good. I think I want to do something. We haven't done this in a week or so. I want to do our top two, lighten things up a bit, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit more. So, for all of you out there, begin thinking about this one. I was trying to figure out a good top two for the week, and here's what I came up with. Share with us your top two comedians. Who are your top two favorite comedians, past, present, alive, not alive, whatever? But who are those people that could always make you laugh? So we'll come back and get your responses to our top two right after this. All right. So who wants to start? Share your top two. If you're out there still listening, type it in the chat. Roz. All right, Roz. Who are your top two comedians?
Phyllis Diller
Oh,
Oh my
wow.
God.
I
Yeah.
forgot about Phyllis.
and Lillian Thompson.
Oh man. Okay.
The one that would do the telephone one ringy dingy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She was on the Carol Burnett show, and I always thought that was I loved it. And she just and because they were women, you know, and then even to go even further back, Moms Mabley. So those are really the
Mhm.
women comedians that I like.
Oh wow, those are good. All right. So all right, who's going next? Who's gonna share their top comedians with us?
Mm. So I didn't have a second one, but my top comedian is the French comedian Louis de Finesse. And I really, like him, all the movie that he's done, and I mean, it's gone now, but I always, go back and watch, the movies, and it's always, so hilarious, and I really love it.
Oh, that's awesome. All
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
So, Dolores, who are your top two comedians?
You know what? I never really gave that much thought, but I'm going back to Saturday Night Live, like Rosanna Donna, and Father Guido Sarducci, which
Yes.
is whoever played. They really spoke to me. So
Oh my
Hmm.
goodness. Oh, that's a good one. I was also thinking around that Saturday Night Live kind of thing. And Jamie Foxx in his early
yeah.
comedy days, I found him to be pretty funny. Not so much now, but back in the day I did. And then Cat Williams, he is hilarious. I mean, he's off the chain with the stuff that he says, but he is actually pretty funny to me. So let's see. Andy said Jackie
Oh,
Gleason. Oh, that's a
oh
good
yeah,
one.
that's true.
Jackie Gleason and Sammy Davis Jr.
Hmm.
And then Pat said her top two are my husband and daughter. They both have a dry sense of Dutch humor. All right, make sure you let them know that you nominated them for
That's
top
awesome.
comedians. And then as we move on, Andy said, just talking about the show, brilliant information. It's all rooted in self esteem. 99% of people have a very low one, and
Yeah.
that presents a major challenge. But I
Yeah.
think it goes back, Dr. D, to that self trust, right? Your willingness to tune in, tap into yourself, and to empower yourself from that space. And I want to just talk about when all of this stuff is happening to us or around us and things are chaotic and crazy, how do we find how do we get to that place of calm inside of us? Because I think it's one thing to say it, like,
Hmm.
just be calm in the face of the storm. And people are like, okay, well, how in the world do you do that? Hold on one second. One more comedy. Carol Burnett and Lucille
Oh
Ball,
yeah, yeah,
mom
yeah.
said,
Forgot about them.
are her top two. So,
Yeah.
okay, so Dr. Dolores, how do we get to that place of calm inside of us in the midst of a storm?
Well, that's yeah. People always ask, well, how do you do that? You know what? You need to work on yourself. You have to make yourself a priority. You have to, if you even have to schedule an appointment with yourself in your daytime or electronic calendar, please do so. Because so often we don't put ourselves on our to-do list at all. Sometimes if you're a busy mom or a busy parent or you have a job and everything else, it takes priority. You have to make yourself a priority because you are important. It's
Hmm.
like if you don't put yourself first, nobody else is going to do it for you. And, I could say this in healthcare now because living through the pandemic and, working in a joy of being, a job, that's what I call it, a joy of being, is, I got to witness how people reacted to a lot of different things. But when the pressure was put on from the institution to the individuals, like demanding that they stay late and guilting and shaming them into doing it, I'd have to pull some of my youngsters, the younger generation aside and said, you know what? It's okay to say no.
Hmm.
You have rights. And the thing is, it's like, this is the most important thing to remember. They're not going to fire you. This is the most, it's all hands on deck now. But the thing is, you need to put yourself first and take care of self. Because if you deplete yourself, run yourself down, get sick, they're not going to care. But you know who suffers? You and your
Hmm.
family. So you need to take care of yourself first.
I love that. I think that's really,
I
really
love that. Yeah.
important. And Andy said it's too difficult depending on where your self esteem is. So that was
Well, that's
that a
something
little
that's
bit.
something to look at. Why is that so? Because that's a belief. What's the
Hmm.
underlying issue that's driving that? It may be
Hmm. The
the way
trauma.
you were raised, that you weren't allowed to be still and do anything. I know in my household, if you weren't always in motion, you were considered lazy and not productive, which is a bunch of baloney because you get your most
Hmm.
creative ideas when you're in stillness. because that intuition, that inner knowingness, that God spark, whatever you want to call it, gives you the inspiration and your ideas and your creativity.
Wow, I love that. I think that's really
Wow.
good. And I do think it's worth exploring if you're in that place, Andy, where you are not able to trust yourself because your self-esteem low. That's the work, right? That's the
Mhm.
work that we are all required to do. It may not be easy. Maybe it comes to some people, maybe they've already done the work, but then if we recognize those things in ourselves, and we can't recognize them without awareness, right? Without taking a moment to check in, to be aware, to be curious, and to see where those things are coming from, then if we don't take the time to do that, then we are just subject to victimization. And that's not a
Yeah.
good place to be.
And Rhonda, I want to add, piggyback on what you're saying right now, is that one thing I want to remind people of, it's not a one and done. This is a life journey and a process. There's no bypass. There's no magic pill. You need to show up for yourself to do the work and want to do the work. Nobody else is going to do it for you. You know, and it takes a lot of courage and being brave and having to love yourself enough to want to be different and make a difference. The other thing that I'm going to add too is, like, we all have known people in our lives that they're not the most positive people. They're, always have grudge or whatever. And they think, oh, if I change my job, it's going to be different. So they move to another job. The same thing happens there. They're miserable and stuff like that. Then they move cross country and the same thing happens there. What's the common denominator here? Not the job or anything else. It's the person, right?
So I used to love us use this saying a lot. And I would always say that, it doesn't really matter where you go or what you do, you're taking yourself with you. And so we're likely to get a similar result or outcome. And you've got to figure out which you is driving that outcome that's undesirable or unwanted. And how do you then dial up? Because I do think it's a matter of, we have it all within us, but sometimes it's suppressed. And we've got to figure out how to dial up the energy and the things that are going to produce the positives in our lives. So I love this by Pat. Pat said, the two balls in your hand, excuse me, one rubber ball, one crystal ball. The crystal ball is you. If you drop it, it shatters. The rubber ball is work. If you drop it, it bounces and someone else picks it up. So there are
that's pretty powerful.
Oh my gosh, Pat, that is fantastic. There are these, thank you so much for sharing that. There are these parts of us that we get so attached to that are like those rubber balls. And another saying that I heard that I've been saying recently is, you may love your job and everything that you do. You may love it, but it really doesn't love you back. It's really not capable of that, right? It's a job. It's not capable of loving you back. So you can love it all day, right? Give it love and hugs and kisses and warmness and all of that, but it is not capable of loving you back. That, I think, is an invitation and something for us to consider, because we get held hostage by things and we believe that we have to do these things because of work. I can't say no. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. But again, that confidence plays in. So I'm so excited. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be, I know, it's already been almost an hour, and I can't believe that time has gone by that fast. So Pat said, on point, Rhonda. So let's do our coffee shot. And then I want to give Dolores a bit of time to talk through, like, what do you want people to walk away with?
There
was more that I could have covered in this, but we just don't have time for it all. So let's stop here with the depth of where we're going. All right, everybody ready?
Ready.
Just hold it up. Got it. Coffee shot done. All right. So let's move into our closing segment that we like to call What's in Your Cup. And what we're really asking is, what did we pour in your cup today? What did you receive from this conversation? What's going to be your takeaway? What will you ponder? And I want to start asking this, Roz and Mireille, at the end of every show. What one thing will you think about doing differently as a result of this conversation, even if you're just pondering it or considering it? because this show has been a game changer and life changer for me. I learned something every single show, but it's just information if we don't do something with it,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
And guess what? There is no shortage of information out there. We get it all day, everywhere, up, down, around, everywhere. But the reason why it doesn't impact us is because we don't do something with it. So I want to start to ask that question for people to consider, and they can share it in the chat or not, just consider it. But I want to start asking, what will we be doing differently as a result of our conversation? So when we come back, we will start our wrap up. I'll come to you first, Roz, and we'll go to Mireille, and then we will wrap up with this
Mhm.
right after this. All right. So, wow, we've covered a lot of ground in a short period
Yeah.
of time, and we could have even gone further. So, Roz, what is in your cup?
When Dr. Dolores talked about the download,
Mhm.
how we had to be still for things to be downloaded. And when I thought about it, I was thinking about things being downloaded into us,
Mm,
Mhm.
that part. And so again, if it's downloaded, what are we doing with it? So what I'm going to do is I hear stuff all the time, things come to me, but I haven't been writing it down.
mm,
So I know now that uh, I need to start recording it. I'll hear it and I say, "Ooh, that sounds like a good thing," and I don't do anything with it.
right.
So I don't want to lose any more opportunities, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
because those downloads only come just for that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and they're coming to me more often, but they're coming for a reason. But I got to write them down
Mm-hmm.
so that I can act on them. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Dolores.
You're welcome. That's cool, Roz.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love it. Thank you, Roz.
Mhm.
Ray, what did we put in your cup today?
Oh, so much, so much. But I think what I take from this conversation is understand that sometimes we're just too passive and we don't understand the power that we have to actually, be ourselves and speak from our heart. And the fear that is associated with it as well is creating a blockage. And like Dr. Dolores was saying, we're not alone. We shouldn't be fearful. We're not alone. Whatever we need, we can get it, and create a different energy to be able to accommodate and really be ourselves and speak from our heart. And I also like the fact that we need to prioritize time for ourselves and make it, intentional. Because we tend to forget ourselves and make appointment with whoever, friend, family, and forget about ourselves. And it's important. And I think that's something that I'm going to do more. Just have this intentional, meeting with myself and have more of them to really, get to become my best friend
Yeah.
and all the time, and that's really, what I take from this conversation today.
That's awesome. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Mireille. I think that's great. Andy said, I'm assuming this is what we put in your cup today, Andy, and this is make yourself a priority, which is so important, not easy to do, but we can make it a practice and a habit, and we can get much better at it. So, Dr. Dolores, tell us what you
Mhm.
want people to walk away from this conversation with, and then tell people how they can connect with you and learn more about the work you do in the world.
Thanks, Rhonda. Um, I think it's important just to prioritize yourself. We're in a time where there's going to be major shifts happening in a good way. Even though we're seeing a lot of chaos, remember, a big light has been shown on all the dark things, the unconscious. When a light is shown on the unconscious, it comes into consciousness. When it's in the consciousness, that's when you could make the changes and move forward. So sometimes what we're witnessing isn't really reality. It looks a lot worse than it is. Just know that and trust.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love it. And that whole
Wow.
trust thing
Powerful.
is really powerful and really big. And one of the things that I'm taking away from these conversations, I'll give my last drop here in just a second. But one of my takeaways is I am in a building and a very active building phase for my business. And that is often leads me to a lot of busyness, right? And a lot of time and lots going on. So I am going to make more intentional times to be still,
Mm-hmm.
because that, to be completely transparent, that's a rarity for me.
Mm-hmm.
I will say no to things. I know how to step up. I am not shy when it comes to that. I will set my boundaries, but I don't often use the time to be still.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And I do think that that's something that I can use more of in my life. So that's something that I'm going to be working on it. So Andy said, "Amen," and Pat said, "Love this session, ladies. My takeaway is to be my best friend, to be deliberate and congruent with my heart, head, and hands." Love that, Pat. Thank you
Beautiful.
so much, Andy, Pat, everybody out there who was contributing to this conversation, Claude, Mom, Regina, everybody. Thank you all so much for tuning in. My last drop for today is, let me put this up on the screen for us, is as I think about this, self empathy and self compassion are two behaviors that we can cultivate to improve psychological well being. I think the more
Mhm.
that we get to that place of psychological well being, the greater the opportunity that we have to be our own best friend, right? If we are
Mm-hmm.
able to really own that space, own our mental, emotional health and wellness, do the things that feel good for us, trust ourselves, then I think we have a much better opportunity to make other great things happen in our lives as a result of that. So that's my takeaway. So for everybody out there, this has been an amazing show. I don't know what's
Yeah.
happening with the Coffee with Rhonda show.
Part
Every week I feel like
part two, please.
part two and part three and part four. So, oh my gosh, thank you all so much for tuning in to the Coffee with Rhonda show. If you have not already, please like and share the video. It's helpful for us, but what we're here for is you and the message, and to continue to help inspire and empower others out there. So we would be so grateful if you would help us do that. And my good friend Carla Rodering is out there. She said, "Spectacular conversation on the screen and in the comments." Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining, Carla. So for all of you out there, we will see you back here next week. Same time, same. Listen, I got a lot of stuff to get to in Bogota. I've got some more work this afternoon with the hospital group, and then this weekend I'm going shopping and wherever else they're taking me. So lot of good stuff going on. So I
Awesome.
got to get to it. So we're gonna do a short
That's
debrief.
the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful here. It's a rainy season, so that was a little interesting yesterday, but really great to be here. So we're looking forward to seeing you all back here next week. Same time, same station. For my guests and co-hosts, we will see you in the debrief. And for everybody else, don't forget to share. And we'll see you back here next week on another episode of the Coffee with Rhonda show. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.